Forced sterilization happened in 33 states, right here in the United States, 33 states, starting in the 1930s. What were called Eugenics boards labeled the victims as feeble-minded, and usually they were the mentally disabled, the poor, and most often people of color. North Carolina deemed Elaine Riddick feeble-minded. She had been raped at the age of 13 and then sterilized at the age of 14. And she joins me now right here in Atlanta in the studio. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Did you block out what happened? That's what I hear, pardon me.
Yeah, after I found out that it had happened to me, I was totally humiliated, degraded, and it was a big insult. You know, I became a hermit. I didn't want to deal with people. I didn't want to live in society. I just couldn't believe that my government would do something like this to me.
They gave you a hysterectomy when you were just a child. And how could people who take care of you, how could they sign off on this?
Let's back up.
Okay, go ahead.
They didn't give me a hysterectomy.
Okay.
What they did was, when I was 13, I was rape molested. I had my son at the age of 14. And when I went into the hospital to have my son, the state of North Carolina decided that they were going to give me a cesarean birth, where when I had my son, they went inside of me. After they took my son from me, they went inside of me and sterilized me at the same time. Later on, because of my body was traumatized so severely, I ended up having to have a total hysterectomy. But prior to that, before I had the hysterectomy, most of my life was I had to live in a lot of pain, hemorrhaging. When I got my monthly cycle, you know, I had to, it felt like someone had taken a knife and was gutting me. That's how severe the pain was. And my menstrual cycle wasn't normal because it lasted maybe a half a month, or 12 to 15 days at a time. And this happened from the time after I had my son, from the time I was 14 until I got into my 40s, when I eventually did have to have a total hysterectomy.
And I think sometimes the best way to do an interview is just to listen, so I haven't asked you any questions because your story is fascinating. I'm sitting here looking at you and listening to you, and I cannot believe that this happened and that you even survived and are here to talk about it. You mentioned your son. How old is your son now? My
son is 43.
43. He's the product of what?
Of rape. And I love my son, and I'm so proud of him. And he, you know, someone asked me a question the other day. Tony. Someone asked me a question the other day. How do we get along? Do I have certain feelings towards him as far as, you know, reminding me that he was a product of rape? No, that's my son, and I love him very much. And he's a special gift from God. That's how I look at it.
What do you want from the state of North Carolina?
Well, I'm going to ask a question, and maybe that will answer the question that you asked. I mean, to the people that's home looking at me right now, I would like for you to turn around and look at your children and tell me, what is your children worth? What are they worth? Look at these kids. What are they worth? You can't give me back what you took from me, but North Carolina you can't put a price on a child's future. You can't put a price on what they think you're worth. You can't just say what a child is worth today.
You talked about the effects on your menstrual cycle, on your health physically, but what about mentally, emotionally? Is this something that you ever recover from?
You will never recover from this because it's always there. Every time you wake up, when you go to sleep, it's there. You think about how you've been treated in this country here. You think about, well, me, myself, I had been so severely damaged until I was on a Prozac, Seroquel, and Haldor. And that's how I cope. I had to wean myself off of these things in order for me to cope. And I have to cope, and I have to go on.
There are people who are watching this, I'm sure, stunned, and probably more stunned than I am, because I had read at least a little bit about it. Is there any hope is there any hope that you can offer people who say, oh my gosh, maybe I've lost my faith in humanity? You're okay, but some people will just, say, how can she recover?
Well, I think for me, in order for me, I had to recover because I'm on a mission. And sometimes we can't look at ourselves. Sometimes we have to do God's will. And God's will is for us to be happy, and to go on with life. Pick yourself up and go on. You can't look at what society has dealt you. You just got to think about what you mean to yourself. What am I worth? Am I meant to sit here and just take this? No, you don't sit there, you don't lay down and take anything.